Hey my friend, in this lesson I'm going to show you 6 ways you can use augmented chords musically on guitar. So if you don't know how to use augmented chords and how to create chord progressions with them, this is going to be the perfect lesson for you. So first of all, what is an augmented chord? It's when you take a regular triad of a root, third, and fifth, and you raise the fifth to a sharp 5. So it does 1, 3, sharp 5, and it's a super tense chord that you can use to resolve in many different ways, right? And as far as the chord shapes, you don't have a lot to learn. You can use this one, this 3-note shape. If you want to make it a bigger chord, you can add your ring finger on the 5th string. Or you could play a smaller shape on the top 3 strings. So either this one, or the bigger one. Because what's fascinating with augmented chords is that it's always going to make the same chord shape wherever you are on the fretboard. So for example, if I take C triads all over the fretboard and I want to create C augmented triads, let's say I pick this one, that comes from the C bar chord from the 5th string. This one. The 5th of the chord is the bottom note right here. So if I want to raise it 1 fret higher, it makes the same shape I showed you 30 seconds before. If I take this C triad right here, that comes from the C bar chord from the 6th string. This time the 5th of my chord is the top note. So if I raise it, I get the same shape again. If I take, for example, the C open, the 5th of my chord is the open third. So if I raise it 1 fret, it's exactly the same shape again. And if I leave the C, it's like the bigger shape. So either here, or here, or here, it's exactly the same shape everywhere, so that's why you always end up getting the same shape. And as far as how to write the chord, you're going to see either a C sharp 5, or most of the times it's just going to be a plus sign. So if you see a C plus, it means to play a C augmented chord. So now let's go to my 6 tips to use it musically on guitar. Number 1, to use it as the 3rd chord in harmonic minor. So if you play on a harmonic minor scale, it is made, so if I play it in C minor, for example, it's going to be made of the 1, 2, minor 3, 4, 5, minor 6, natural 7, 1. It's like an exotic feeling, right? So if we want to build triads off of the harmonic minor scale, we get 1, minor 3, 5, or 1 flat 3, 5, which makes a C minor chord. If we keep going, we get 2, 4, flat 6, which create a D diminished. And if we keep going, we have flat 3, 5, 7, natural 7. So we get an augmented triad, right? In our case, it's going to be an E flat augmented. So if I want to improvise with my C harmonic minor scale, I could create a chord progression like this, like C minor, and then E flat augmented, C minor, E flat augmented. And then I can improvise with my C harmonic minor. So if I try to do that with my little loop, right, so it's super cool if you want to create a totally different kind of mood using the harmonic minor scale. It's just to use, in my case, I use the root chord, C minor, and then the 3 chord in harmonic minor, which is exactly the E flat augmented on the flat 3, right? So that's one way to do it. The second way is just to substitute a dominant 7 chord with an augmented chord. So usually the dominant 7 chord is going to be the 5 chord of your key that wants to resolve to the root chord. So if I am in the key of G major, for example, then the 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is going to be on D, and I'm going to play a D dominant 7. That's going to want to resolve to G. Da, da. But you can replace that dominant 7 chord by an augmented chord if you want. So that's a D augmented that wants to resolve just as well to the G after. It's just a different kind of tension that wants to resolve exactly to the same place. In the case of our dominant 7, we have a contrary motion of resolution that we want. One note wants to resolve upwards, and one note wants to resolve downwards. But in the case of our augmented triad, both notes wants to resolve upwards. Compared to so it's just a different flavor of resolution for your 5 chord, whether it's or. So it always works to substitute a dominant 7 chord for an augmented chord, and you can play one after another if you want to add an extra spice here. So you can play. Right, it just makes you stay longer on the 5 chord. Which is super cool. Number 3 way is to have a chromatic descending cliche line, right? It's when you play a minor triad. So for example, if I am on B minor, it's when you play the root note and you just descend chromatic like this. So for example, you've all heard that or hear like. So if we analyze the notes, we got a B minor triad. But when we bring the root note to the 7th, it actually creates our augmented shape right here. So the notes right here are A sharp, D, and F sharp. So if I reconstruct the chord, it makes an F sharp augmented. And then it goes to a D triad, and then to an E dominant 9. Super colorful. So in fact, that chord progression ends up being B minor, then F sharp augmented, D, and E dominant 9. So it's cliche, but it sounds so good to use chromaticism, so you can use the augmented chord in this way, in that chord progression right here. The number 4 way is actually kind of the opposite motion. It's to use the augmented chord to link your relative major and minor chords. So if you don't know what the relative major minor chords are, for example, if we stay in the key of G major that we used previously in the lesson, in any major key, the 6th chord of your harmonization is your relative minor chord. So in my key right here, I have the 1 chord, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chord. So E minor, my 6th chord in my G major key, is my relative minor chord. It means that the key of G major and the key of E minor are like twin keys. They share exactly the same notes, exactly the same chords. It's just the tonal center that's different, right? So you can use an augmented chord in between your major chord and its relative minor, and that's gonna resolve super well. So for example, if I use my G, and then I transform it into a G augmented, and then I resolve on E minor, which is my relative minor chord. And it works well because you keep exactly the same thing at the bottom. It's just the top note that moves, right? Because that note right here wants to resolve upwards to that note, and when we resolve here, it creates an E minor triad, right? Right? So it's a great progression to use that. So you could have a progression of like G augmented after that, and then E minor, and then C, for example. So that would do. Right. I think it's something that the Beatles have done. Like, it sounded a little bit like the Beatles, what I played. So it's a really cool chord to use to link the relative major and minor chord. The fifth way is just to use it as a vamp, right? Because when you use the augmented chord, it wants to resolve upwards, but it can resolve downwards also to its previous chord. I think it's because the sharp 5 can also be a flat 6, like it's an enharmonic. It means it could be a sharp 4, a sharp 5 as much as it could be a flat 6, right? So if it's a sharp 5, it wants to resolve upwards. But if we consider that it's a flat 6, then it could resolve downwards, right? So you could use your root chord and then play an augmented and then resolve to the same root chord after and play it as a vamp. Maybe it's not the best example, but the song Baby Hold On by Eddie Money. So if you haven't lived through the late 70s, maybe you don't know this. I'm too young for that, but my parents know this very well. So the song Baby Hold On, that goes like this. Like, it's exactly this. It's in the key like of D. It's just a regular D open chord. And then we play it as an augmented chord. And we just resolve it to the root chord. And it works super well. It's just a proof that you can resolve to the previous chord as much as you can resolve to another chord afterwards, right? And the number 6 way to use the augmented chord musically is to take advantage of its symmetrical shape. So like I said, that shape right here is the same everywhere. So you could use the same shape and just go 4 frets up, and it's gonna create the same chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So for example, if I take it from the 2nd fret, for example. So what are the notes here? We have F, A, and C sharp. If I go 4 frets up, 1, 2, 3, 4, we have the notes A, C sharp, and F. Exactly the same notes, just in a different order. It's an inversion. 1, 2, 3, 4. What are the notes? C sharp, F, and A. So it's just always the same chord if you go 4 frets up or 4 frets down. So you can use it to bridge the gap on the fretboard, or like create more tension and momentum before you resolve your chord. So if I do the same example where I go from G to G augmented, and then I resolve to E minor, and then to C, I can take advantage of that. So I could do like something like that. So G augmented, and I go 4 frets, 4 frets, 4 frets, and I resolve to E minor. So that's another way to do it, and it's actually something that you can also do with diminished chords to bridge the gap between frets on the fretboard. So if you want to see my full lesson on diminished chord, you can click on the upper card also. So I hope it was helpful to you. If you want to go further with me, I have a completely free crash course on spread triads on my website. If you don't know how to use spread triads, they are the Swiss knife of guitar chords. I use them all the time, and I have a totally free course. You can check it out, first link in the description box. It's 45 of video lessons for free. I'm giving you chord charts and downloadable exercises that you can practice to master all kinds of spread triad chords all over the fretboard. It's my gift to you for watching my lesson until the end. So you can check it out once again, first link in the description box below to go further with me. So I hope that you picked up a few things in this lesson, and I'm going to see you real soon. Until next time, au revoir.